Good evening and welcome to the Minions of the Zoo Saturday edition. I'm your host and keeper of the Harry Channel, and with me tonight are minions Sora Luna.
Hello.
DrFunctional.
Hi.
Serenity Star 13.
Hello.
Was that like a Lauren Bacall thing you're trying to do there, Functional?
No.
Oh, okay.
You just might be tired.
Just low energy because it's been, well, fuck, I'm just going to steal the show. Because it's just been a long day of work and,
Yeah.
the world sucks. Well, no. The world is awesome. People are awesome.
Mm-hmm.
It's the fuckers in charge that absolutely suck and are ruining everything at every level.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm kind of, you know, at the end of my rope there.
Yeah. I mean, I have read so many incredibly stupid things, comments that people supposedly in charge, the adults who run things, have said in the last week. Oh my God. It is, everything is just so upside down land. You would think we would have our best and brightest sort of, as sort of a civic responsibility, taking time out of their life to maybe spend 4 years doing something for the betterment of everybody else. No, that's not what we have.
Well,
we have like the worst people doing the worst job, being managed by like some sort of deep state thing. It's just terrible.
All across the West. And the obvious thing aside, I don't know if we were going to talk about it on the show, but like you asked, I know we're talking, Sora's going to be talking, but you asked us to like a couple weeks ago, hey, you know, like anything you want to like pump up about your city or your region, like, you know, let's talk about it. And I'm like, I honestly, at this point, there's nothing I can think of because like today's the Pride Parade, and there was two of them. There was the Dyke March where they were screaming Antifada now, and from the river to the sea, which, I mean, that's just like all kinds of mental derangement in that group of people. While looking at it, of course, because I live in this fucking city, I noticed that the road that they're walking on is literally like crumbling like some fucking middle of Africa paved road from the 50s that never got, you know, it never has had any upkeep on it. We have our prime minister who not only did they tell us that you should stay home this summer and not go on family vacations for summer break because climate change. And yet the motherfucker who was in Toronto 2 days ago landed in Toronto, had a meeting. Then instead of staying here because he needed to be here today for a whole bunch of other bullshit backdoor meetings and whatnot, decided he was going to fly home to Ottawa and then fly back this morning. So unfucking believable. And then he goes to one of our how can I put this? Well, it's a big Chinese community just north of Toronto. Huge transplant of mainland China right there in the middle of Ontario. And huge gang problem there, funny enough, but glossing aside, was doing little wild dances and meeting with the people while he was surrounded by like 20 cops, while people are screaming at him that he's a monster. Like, this is the kind of stuff you see in Rwanda and like dictatorships and really, really bad places and evil people in movies. Like, this is like almost surreal. And then to top it all off, that second Pride Parade, I got to see a whole bunch of adults, fully naked, like wearing like flip-flops. Like, that's the extent of their clothing, in front of children walking down the fucking streets of my city. And it's driving me almost to my wit's end.
Yeah.
That's been my day.
Well, I should set up so I can bring up This Is Fine Dog anytime.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't. Hi, Skep.
Hey, how you doing? Sorry, I'm late.
Me because I'm getting myself worked up.
Well, let's finish.
Are you into lather, DrFunctional?
Am I
In a
In
lather.
a lather.
in a
In
lap?
a lather.
He's got his undies in a bunch.
Yes.
Oh. I'm almost there. I'm bringing myself back from the brink, and I'm just gonna breathe.
Somebody put sand in your Vaseline.
Yeah.
I get it. I hear you.
Yeah, that's an album title. let's finish the introductions. We've got Skep here, so let's say hi, Skep. Hi, Skep.
Hi, Harry. It's so good to be here after having my cell phone been stolen this weekend.
Oh God.
How?
That was fabulous.
Oh, no.
Give us how did that happen? Just give us the
Well,
short
it's my
version.
stupidity. I took it to the oil change place.
Yeah.
And, I got all my stuff out like I always do, and for some reason I forgot my cell phone. Old man forgets cell phone in car. Went out to get it, and the cell phone was gone. Nobody knew anything, of course. And I've been watching. I watched a couple of attempts at logins. I had already changed the passwords, and it takes a little while for them to brick those phones. They had access to the data network for a little while. And they were actually trying to log in.
Nice.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah.
Fortunately, that's why I don't do my banking and stuff on my phone.
Gen Z has one of their weird little quirks is they've been sort of moving away from smartphones and embracing dumb phones. I kind of like a flip phone with just T9 text input and stuff. I like that form factor. It's pretty great. Unfortunately, there's just too many things I need to do, like Okta two-factor authentication, Google two-factor authentication.
You would never get the security situation settled to your liking.
Yeah.
With a flip phone, it's just not there. But even if you just want the extra capabilities, which I really like. I like being able to look at my phone and see out my front door. There are a lot of applications that I take advantage of. I just keep the financial stuff off the phone, that's different from a lot of people. Most everybody does everything on their phone.
See, so you'll like what I do. I have a second phone, which is not my business phone, which is my personal phone. Now, I always use my business phone, but for tax purposes, I have to have a personal phone, right?
Right.
It's just cleaner that way, with its own separate account, separate number, and everything. And that one doesn't.
I have modified my house to put an external entrance when I was a contractor, when I had my own business and I was, distributing hardware.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah. So that phone doesn't leave the house, and that is the phone that has all it has are my banking apps, and it's locked up, physically locked up when I'm not using it. So
I just use my laptop, which I also leave at home, for the same reason. I have 3 laptops at home.
Well, I don't have any banking apps, but also my bank, on their banking app, they actually say, oh, as a condition of using this, we're going to scan all of the applications you have loaded on your phone and a whole bunch of other stuff. And they do it for fingerprinting. That's why. But I don't really care why they do it because I don't want them to do that. It's like, no, you don't get to scan my phone to figure out what apps I have loaded.
Right.
Like having your competitor's app, no, it's just screw you.
You're going to have to be peaceful knowing that there's information about me that you never have.
Well, I have one phone that has only my financial stuff on it. It's all separate. I don't put any of that stuff on my regular phone. But this is probably not people hearing about how I do online banking is probably not what they're here for.
And about a stupid old man leaving his phone and probably deserved to have it stolen. So I guess, but I'm going through that now in addition to doing all the other stuff. Plus, I've been bachelor at home while the wife was away with 3 grandkids and various other family members tubing down the Guadalupe River, and which I have done many times, and I'm too old and it's too fucking cold. That river is freaking cold. I don't care. You see how these guys smiling? They're smiling for an instant while the picture is taken.
Okay, how cold is it?
They're miserable. It's so cold. Your nipples actually will leave your chest and go to Florida.
Okay.
They will.
It can't be that cold.
It's that fucking cold.
Okay.
It's so cold. The alcohol, even when I got drunk, I was still cold and miserable.
So when I was a kid going gold mining with my dad on his 1-month break, right in the summer, we would go up to the North Fork of the Feather River, And one time we decided, or he decided, I mean, I didn't get a vote here, that we were going to hike up this thing called Yellow Creek. Now, Yellow Creek is just all snow water runoff. I mean, it's just the coldest damn thing. But the great thing about that is it's so hot there in the summer, like 110, just, annoying heat, terrible, that you'd get really hot. And then as a kid, I would get super hot. And then I would go plunge into Yellow Creek, and then I'd get super cold, and I would just do that all day. I think at like our age, our heart would just go into shock if we did that.
Yeah,
I think that would. But
euthanasia.
When you're 10 or 11, that's
sure.
good fun.
Yeah.
So when you say it's cold, my measure
It's
for
like
cold is
10-year-old
like
cold.
Yellow Creek. That's
it's
cold.
like a 10-year-old would say, kind of cold.
Okay, kind of cold.
And a 70-year-old would say, no fucking way.
I want my heart to keep beating. It doesn't need that kind of surprise. All right, let's finish the introductions. Hi, Serenity.
Hello.
How are the thunderstorms?
Good. I think they passed mostly. I had to give the dog a chill out pill, the youngest one, because he's panicking and wants to be in my lap, but at the same time doesn't want to be in my lap. And it's just like, honey, I can't do this. You're a 76-pound dog. This is not happening.
Perfectly lap-sized. Doesn't matter how big a dog is, they always think they're lap-sized.
Yeah.
That's been my experience. Malamute mix, lap-sized. Doesn't matter. They're just all dogs. If they want to be on your lap, they just assume it's all going to work out. That's been my experience. But anyway, do you have anything you want to share with the class before we talk about Vancouver? Nope.
Had a pretty boring ass couple weeks, so nope.
Okay.
Had the first tomatoes. They're tiny as hell, but it doesn't matter because they fucking taste good, so that's all that matters.
Well, yeah, I've got some cherry tomatoes that have come in, and I had the first of some strawberries. I had some seascapes and some Albions this afternoon.
That's the problem, though. They're not cherry tomatoes.
Oh.
They're Bella Rosas, so they're supposed to be bigger.
Oh dear.
So it was just, but they started turning orange, so I took them off the vine. This way they didn't wear the rest of the vine out and take too much energy off of it, and they turned red. Like I said, they tasted fine. And then we have some early girls, which ironically are running late, which haven't done anything. And then we're going to have yellow and green peppers here pretty soon, like the bell pepper, not peppers.
Excellent.
But yeah, no, it was like they're like the size of two, like, those like Italian cherry tomatoes, the ones that the bigger ones, they were basically that size. Even they're not supposed to, because Bella Rosas, I think, are supposed to be medium slicers.
Yeah.
So they're not supposed to be that small. So
Wow.
It's just like, hey man, as long as you're edible and you're growing, I don't fucking care anymore.
Yeah. I'm kind of surprised that Skep doesn't have one of those phone holder things that he puts on his waist, on his belt. I thought that was like, required for boomers to have to have the phone thing.
With a fanny pack also on a separate
bag.
belt.
No, we don't have any Brits in the
I call it a bum bag.
because they'll get
Bum bag, man.
you don't want to name it after a lady's front bottom.
Or
fanny
as-
gets them upset.
Or the new thing, which is sling bag, where they sling it over their shoulder.
You're
I thought you were talking about my first wife.
European NPC sling.
No.
God. So, Sora,
Hello.
so I did find, I think I was talking about Golden Gate Park. Remember we were making fun of the Apple VR thing? And I said, I realized it's like I sound like a tourist bureau for like California. Because, I mean, it's easy to hate California. God knows there's plenty of things I hate about it. I've got how many articles about California here that we could complain about? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've got 6 articles about California, all of them terrible, right? But I still love certain parts of it. So I got the idea, hey, you guys must have not moved for a reason. So maybe somebody else would like to say something nice about where they live. So and you volunteered. So
Yes.
where should we begin?
And after that wonderful introduction of from functional, but I will preface
Yeah.
that we are on opposite sides of the country, and while it is dumpster fire here too, there is some good things that people say. So I think we should start.
Left coast is the
Um,
best coast.
if you don't mind sharing the picture of the two sisters, the mountain range.
Oh, okay. I had the other one loaded. Hold on.
Oh, which one do you have
No,
loaded?
don't worry about it.
The-
It's
the
easy to
beach? 'Cause we
fix.
can do the.
Easy to fix. Okay.
One thing about Harry,
There you go.
about getting loaded.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right.
So a lot of people will point out
That's a fake
to
picture.
if you come to Vancouver and the surrounding areas, it is very, very green here. This is the one good thing about having so much rain throughout the year, is that we tend to remain green, and we have beautiful mountain ranges and clean air and clean water. We drink out of the tap. There is, it's safe to do so. And just something like this. This is one of my favorite mountain ranges. It's called we call them the Lions, but I think it's the original name is the Twin Sisters, and it's there's many stories behind it, but it's something to do with how back in the day the Squamish Nation and the Haida people were at Great War, and two twin daughters of the Squamish Nation married two twin sons from the Haida Nation, if I remember correctly, and ended the war. And somehow either the gods or the Sky Brothers or some entity created the mountain ranges. When I grew up, it was said that the actual twin sisters became the mountains. If that's how I heard it when I was in elementary school.
Mhm.
So I've always loved that because they brought peace upon everything. And then they sit there and watch over and you can see it from almost anywhere in Vancouver.
That's what I wanted to ask. Is that can you see that from anywhere in Vancouver?
Almost anywhere, yeah. And now less and less because they're building skyscrapers.
That's so perfect. It doesn't look real.
This one, I stole this from the internet. This is shown from the Cleveland Dam at Capilano Lake. So this one is from North Vancouver. So from North Vancouver, being it's so much closer to this mountain range, you actually see the full range. So you can see both humps of the sisters. But if you are almost anywhere, because our elevation is fairly mountainous, so most neighborhoods will have a high peak, and that you can see them. You can see them poking through. My whole life, wherever we lived, I could see them. Now less and less because due to them building skyscrapers, and then because of how if you're looking into the downtown core from a lot of places, they're all covered up because of all the
that's where I've been in Vancouver, is in the downtown where all the tall buildings are. This is exactly where I was, and I don't remember seeing this at all. I've been to Victoria, and I don't remember seeing it. I don't know if you can see it from there.
Victoria, no, you can't see it from the island.
Yes, probably
because this is right. This is right. It'll be completely covered. You won't be seeing it.
Yeah. Okay.
But
anyway, this is just absolutely gorgeous. It looks like Alaska, only without all the
and
snow.
if you're up north, like northern BC, you're very close to Alaska too. But no, this is interior BC, or like close to us here.
I have a stupid question.
And
how would you do you think there's much difference between sort of most of Washington State on the ocean side of the mountains, not the dry part, and British Columbia? Is it like a subtle difference, or is it a major difference?
The last time I spent any like length of time with actual people there, I was like 5 years old.
Okay.
So, and the last time I was I just drove straight to Oregon. So I'm not the right person to ask this, unfortunately. The greenery is very similar, but whether anything else, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know if you guys are. Are you? I think it's still because we're a rainforest.
The Pacific Northwest is just beautiful, full stop. But as you get further into Oregon, it's not quite as wet, quite as green all the time. Not that not that people in Portland would agree with that statement, but you guys get a lot of rain typically.
So the and when I'm talking about Vancouver. So a lot of people will think Vancouver and add like sort of Greater Vancouver, which is all the connecting um, different cities, municipalities, but
Like
they don't count.
Richmond and that kind of
Richmond, Surrey,
right.
North Van, West Van. For me, no.
Coquitlam. Yeah.
We've got, yeah, that's even farther. So you're like, no, I'm thinking Vancouver, Vancouver, because these
Right.
other places, they're nice to visit, more or less, depending, but no, it's not. You don't have, depending on where you go, you'll end up in lake country, of course. There'll be, I'm sure there's still hiking and some things, but you don't have the beach. You don't have the access. Now, West Van, North Van, you have access to the mountain ranges, of course, so that's great there. But for Vancouver, one of the best things, and what a lot of people will try to sell you on to try to ignore high price of cost of living, rent, and all that, is how easy. Like, there's other places on the West Coast where, of course, they have beaches. You can go, but there's not that many where you literally will walk
mean-
5 minutes. There you go, 5 minutes from corporate. And this is one of the beaches that's outside of the downtown core. But if you look across the water on the other side, sort of on the right hand side, those are all beach. So that's literally, you can walk about 15 minutes from your corporate job and you decide to meet people on the beach for a drink, and you're on the beach and then in the water. There's no needing to take a highway to the beach. There's no need to drive anywhere like far when you're living in the city. It's like, this is pristine. And they're, fairly rockless beaches. It's sand beach. It's clean, you know. There's no sharks.
Any sunfish?
No.
Okay,
sadly,
good.
no.
Good.
Sometimes we get red algae, but that's about it.
Yeah, it's fine.
Stay out of the water. But yeah, so that's a couple of things that I really like, especially this. You can see the beautiful sun. And more in the city, because I know Functional was saying things like bad infrastructure, and there is. However, we have these things. So I was talking to Harry before the stream. These were the kind of only positive result of all the lockdowns, in my opinion. These are little pop-up neighborhood plazas that came in. So what the city hall decided to do is, because people were isolating and stuck inside, it was safer to meet outside. This is, of course, once vaccinations were available and all of that. So they started to put all of these they would block these little neighborhood end caps off the street. And they've started doing commissioning mural artists. You can sort of see the mural on the side of the building there. You can see it on the ground. They put these structures, and I found out 20 of them, and they are all slightly different. They have slightly different vibe to them, feeling. Some of them are near coffee shops. This one is near a bunch of shopping, and then there's a little bistro behind there. And because of the fact that this part of the street is completely blocked, any and similar streets, any restaurants that are attached to this area, they have a patio. They automatically can set up their own patio. It is actually really nice, and it's open all year round. It's just that come the hotter months, they actually have a little bit more like decoration, or they'll have live music playing. There'll be people, and that is supported by the local business association. So each of these little neighborhoods have their own like business group, and they will help promote. This is typically just in the summer times, because we have more tourists. We have the cruise ship people coming in, so you'll find a lot of things happening. You just have to kind of like get out of your house, and there's a lot of street closed days and everything like that. Now, big thing about Vancouver is what people complain about here is nobody wants to make friends because we already have our own friends, thank you. And that's kind of true. But people are still very friendly. So you can talk to people, they don't want to necessarily connect with you. And I actually think this is a great thing. That might be sick, but I like that. You have people who are polite and will have a nice conversation with you, and then you can leave that conversation and nobody's upset with each other. It's just like you have a 5-second, like 5-minute conversation connection with someone. You'll laugh, you'll chat, and then you'll both go your separate ways, happy, and you don't have to interact ever again.
So
I like this.
how long are the nights, or I guess, or how short are the days in the winter? Because you're kind of far up there, north.
I think we get like, I'm trying to think about where I am. We probably see light probably by 8:30, 9 o'clock, and by the time I get home, it's pitch black. So probably the light goes down around 4:30.
We were describing the people in Vancouver, and it reminded me of something that somebody told me about Sweden, in terms of, you can go there and there's all these people, but I guess because of the way the seasons sort of manifest, they tend to hang out with like their families and their close friends, and they don't really exit those groups so much. And I was wondering if maybe it's just this is what happens when you stick a bunch of white people in a northern latitude. That you just sort of get those kinds of relationships, and a lot of it's just sort of driven by the long winters and the long summers, or the long days in the summer. Because in Sweden they'll just say, hey, it's summertime, let's just go fly balloons like for hours and hours and hours, because the evening stretches on and it hardly ends. Though I digress. But no, that's cool. I mean, obviously you're there for a reason. You like the food. There's work there.
There's good food.
There's everything you could want. It's a major city, and you have nature nearby. So I mean, if I needed a place to live, I could be convinced. But don't you need, for an American to go there? Don't they want like $4 million and just all this stuff? It's
what you need to bring in that I don't know. Probably something ridiculous. So best way to come in. I'm not gonna actually. No, let's not do that. We'll get.
No,
struck
you're
off
not going to
the
give
internet.
advice
No. What I was
on
gonna say
how to
would get us
circumvent
struck.
Canadian immigration.
But no, it's actually it's a really fun place, and there's lots of great things to do. But yeah, rent. If you want to live in Vancouver, that's very difficult, I think, for a lot of people. However, a lot of people still make it work, whether they're students or young families or individuals or older people. Um, I think you just have to be really lucky, unfortunately, with the rental market. That's why we're talking about things we like about the city. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, clearly it works for
necessarily.
some people, because there's cities you hear about where people are just going, the hell with this place, I'm leaving. And there are 10 times as many U-Hauls moving away. And that doesn't sound like it's the case with Vancouver.
Well, the thing is that yes, people are saying that they are doing that, but there's still people coming in regardless.
Yeah, people say a lot of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's no one. That's never going to be a problem here. That's actually the problem is the fact that people want to relocate here, just for the speed that you're going to always be playing catch up. However, there's a lot of positive stuff, like we have tons of parks, like green spaces for people. There are lots of community centers, pardon me, that are run by the park boards and stuff that you can mix and match where you go. There's pools open for people. There's fitness centers. There's children's programming in the summers. There's a lot of things to do. You just have to kind of research where you're living.
Yeah.
Great schools, both public and private. For people like me who are more interested in food than a lot of things like the stuff, there's a lot of really good food. There's a huge international community here, obviously. Majority is Asian, just because of where we're located, being on the West Coast. And so but because of this and where we are located, the quality of fish is amazing. Obviously, it's very fresh.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's worth coming and visiting it, regardless of all the stupid things that are happening. And there's a lot of stupid things that are happening. At least there's ways to make, like, to lead yourself with happiness here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I think
You're
that
welcome.
think that covers all of it. You remember, talking about paradise, places people can live. Remember the story I told you about the woman who bought a plot of land and she was going to move. She's going to move to Hawaii someday, and
Yes.
somebody. Well, a judge
Yes,
finally
they're
heard
tearing
this
it
thing, and they're
down.
saying, no,
Good.
you cannot build a house that somebody doesn't want on their property and then bill them for it. They basically said, no, screw you. You're going to tear it down and put it back the way it was. You're going to make her whole again.
Canada.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
No, it's perfect. I'm glad
Yeah.
that this
I
is
still
just a
think
follow-up.
she
This is a
should
good
have
result.
She should have rented Killdozer number 2
Hmm.
and just gone to town. This is her property. That means she's allowed to destroy anything on her property, right?
Yeah. Just go,
Yeah.
full
I'm
geodes on it.
disappointed, but I'm glad it's coming down. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I like that. Let's see. So there's that one. Let's see. We talked about Vancouver. So just, in terms of my stuff, the first stream that I ever hosted was on, what was it? It was on disaster preparedness on the Harry channel. And I did it with a guy who went by the moniker of Sergeant Sniper. And, I think a lot about why it is that I choose to do this, because I enjoy hanging out with my friends. There's a lot of stuff about it. But he just today posted a thing saying he wasn't going to post YouTube anymore. It just wasn't working for him. He was tired of sort of talking about the same stuff over and over again, and it wasn't working for him, which I totally understand. I can totally understand it because he was sort of more in that, more sort of Gadsden flaggy sort of part of YouTube. And the same issues just sort of come up over and over and over again. And he's a good guy. Like I said, he was my partner on the first stream that I ever put together, and I've known him for a long time. But and I think about the things he said, and it's like I think in some ways we've managed to avoid some of that. We've been doing this for years, and it's a little lazy of me to rely on news articles as much as I do as jumping off points. But I feel like every show is a little bit different, and we're always talking about different stuff. So I appreciate Sora taking the time to put something together, because I wouldn't want to talk about the same stuff every single week. That would drive me crazy. I hope he's satisfied with his decision, and maybe he'll come back at some point. But yeah, it's just kind of weird, because it's one of those things like, the person who I did my first stream with decided to sort of quit today. So I have to think, it's like, introspection. How do I feel about this? How do I feel about my own stuff? And I'm actually pretty happy hosting, and I like doing this, or I wouldn't keep doing it. Anyway, just sort of a brief aside.
Well, you are a masochist. So.
Yeah, masochist, yes. So there was this article in TechCrunch, and I use the term article loosely. Silicon Valley leaders are once again declaring DEI bad and meritocracy good, but they're wrong.
Thank goodness they're wrong.
Yeah, I know. It's just absolutely terrible. So you look at this, and the question is, by what metric? What? How do you decide if one system is better than another system?
Well, no. I got to stop you right there, because they've already established meritocracy is not better, and therefore metrics are part of meritocracies. So, no.
Yeah. Well, essentially, he never proves his point. Dominic-Midori Davis. He's got a hyphenated first name. What the hell?
Midori. Okay.
Dominic Midori.
Kyle Wiggers.
Kyle Wiggers. Nice. Okay. And so essentially, they never prove their point. They just say, well, if you don't do DEI, then all the things you want to do with DEI won't get done. Therefore, it's worse. And they just gish gallop for page after page after page. You familiar with gish galloping?
DEI, more like DE9.
Yeah. And it just goes on and on and on forever. And he never actually makes his point. But the fact that
double talk.
Well, the fact that somebody in business in Silicon Valley is saying, today we formalized an important hiring policy at scale. We hire for MEI, merit, excellence, and intelligence. Because it's a pretty hard point to make that hiring the most capable people is somehow not going to make your company thrive.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, God.
Or
Yeah.
that in the competitive environment, that not making your company the most competitive it can possibly be does not increase the risk to investors. In other words, DEI increases risk because you get a lower quality of executive, lower quality of leader. They will not do things as quickly, as fast. They won't do the right things soon enough. They won't know the right things soon enough because they aren't as good a thinker as the little boys and girls who did better on the evil meritocracy score. It doesn't matter what color you are; it's still going to damage that business, and it's a risk that is introduced to the shareholders. The shareholders have no say in. That's bullshit.
Well, I think that there is, I mean, much like with the whole Epstein thing, right, which had kind of an overreaction in some ways where women in the workforce aren't getting the mentoring they need because men are afraid to actually work with them. That's a problem. And they should be because that's smart. But,
Yes, exactly.
when I was hiring people, I was like a one-man affirmative action machine in terms of results. But it wasn't because I set out to do that. It was just like, I'm going to this hiring fair. Here's this young woman, has a master's degree, Boston University. Yes, please come work.
Well, you were
work
also
for me.
hiring on merit. You weren't
I was
hiring
totally
on race.
hiring on merit. I was,
Yeah.
but it was. I ended up hiring these
It
people.
just ended up happening.
It just ended up happening
fall
because
that way.
these were the people. And if somebody else overlooks those people, somebody like me is going to just pick them up because I'm happy if other people are
Discrimination does
idiots.
the same. Discrimination always introduces risk to the shareholder, whether you discriminate, in favor of white people or discriminate in favor of black people or people of color or some other characteristic or basket of characteristics. No matter what you do, because you are introducing this factor, it increases risk without increasing the upside to the company. That is just a non-starter for anybody trying to run a business.
Yep.
Yeah, it just sends me absolutely over the edge. I gotta control myself because it's so bad, and it's so bad from a business policy, business accounting, and planning standpoint that it's indefensible.
Well, we don't need to flog this too much. It's just I'm hoping this is just the beginning of the thaw, right? I want to see more of this, and I've actually heard a couple people because things are not great in the job market in Silicon Valley. I've heard a couple of my progressive friends who are looking for work even admit that they're concerned that they might not tick the right boxes to get a job, and that's a thaw of form too. Because when times are good, you can do stupid things and it doesn't really matter that much. But when times start to get a little tough and there's more competition, people start reassessing what matters and what doesn't. I'll just leave that at that.
Right.
So, there was a terrible person who did a terrible thing. This is an entertainment thing. Functional, are you with me?
Mm.
Okay. So this guy, let's just calm that down here. Speaking of the whole Epstein thing, this guy pretended to be a modeling agent. And
Disney better hire him for the next Star Wars show.
yeah, exactly. And he basically enticed young men to move to LA, and you can guess where this goes. He was essentially, being a Weinstein. Did I get it right?
Yes.
I always forget which one is who was
Weinstein.
Weinstein. Thank you.
Yeah.
A bunch of these people, you get them to move to LA and then essentially do the G word with them and then just predate on them. I think it's good for people to be aware of this stuff, and I don't think men should think that they're immune from it because he was preying on young men. And fuck this guy. Seriously.
Yeah, in the ass.
Well, that's
Just quoting Barry.
keel haul or
In the off.
something, but people are just terrible. But I think it's just people in the entertainment industry want to get ahead so much that I feel like they're weirdly more vulnerable to this, because certainly in like a tech job, if I went to go get some sort of tech job and somebody started, making the moves on me, they would get nowhere. Is there something about like the drive to make it an entertainment that makes them particularly vulnerable, functional?
I think it's just because the institution as a whole is so wrought with this kind of stuff that newer industries like the tech industry, even the video game industry, like they've kind of grew up at a later time.
Uh-huh.
And so Hollyweird especially is an old institution. There's a lot of old pedos who have a lot of power and a lot of money backing this huge industry, which happens to back a lot of political power. So rooting out this kind of stuff is it's harder. Obviously, this guy doesn't have a lot of power, so it's fairly easy for the victims to come forward and say, this happened. Here's the receipts of like text messages. He's probably not very bright, and sent them text messages, emails, whatever, Snapchats, like where they communicated this stuff. So it's really easy to take somebody like this down. Is it the nature of the beast? I don't think so, because this doesn't even. It's hard because obviously it's somewhere very far away, but the Hong Kong film scene didn't have this problem.
Yeah, it
India
did.
It did.
Yeah, it did. Oh, fuck yeah, honey. Good lord. All of them do. All of them pull this shit. Every last one of them. Hong Kong, there were women and men who just disappeared because they tried to say something, and then either China or the Hong Kong film industry just disappeared them.
Oh, right. That whole thing with Shaw Brothers.
Yeah. This has been...
Well,
the thing is, it ties back to the fact that it used to be in the acting world, in theater, is that you weren't paid enough, so many of them were, both men and women were for hire. So that's where it ties back to, because a lot of the same mentalities did not change of the only reason why you got to be a prima donna, yeah, you could sing, but you had to sing and do something else. It's I don't agree with it being the nature of the industry, but it's the nature of the industry. And
well, I guess it's just different because up here that doesn't. I'm trying to be very specific with my words because I'm sure it happens, but it's not as. It hasn't seemed to be as prevalent up here as it has in other industries.
That doesn't
There's a lot of sex going on, but there hasn't been a lot of like.
Or it just hasn't gotten out because everyone pays attention to Hollywood.
You have to. I mean, I have to work with proof. I can't just work on allegations, and that's considering all the flagrantly false or just without any proof whatsoever that came out during Me Too about certain Hollywood parts.
And to be clear, I'm talking about just sexual deviancy. I'm not talking about the forceful act of it.
Well, I'm talking about pay to play.
Well, that's what I mean by sexual deviancy.
Well, yeah, pay to play to like outright sexual assault, which is basically, yeah. Anyway, so there has to be something tangible for me to lock onto. I have my supposition. I mean, even look at the music industry across the world. Again, it's just another branch of the arts, but that same shit happened across the board. They did a little bit of cleaning up in certain areas, but not like, so back to Harry's original question that he posited. It's definitely there. It's definitely the need, the want to be famous or have recognition by a large swath of your human peers on this planet is a very strong calling. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think people like that, I think people in the performing arts in general, there's a certain level of narcissism, and if somebody pays attention to you and tells you you're doing a good job when nobody else will, that I think it might circumvent some of the normal safety interlocks.
Well, it's narcissism, but it can depend, and it can be both of the need to belong,
Yeah.
like the need to be other but part of something, because it's a lot of the, and I'm going to use the term loosely, the artistic types, air quotes, are also the people who've perpetuated the bullshit with non-binaryism. Is that because they want to be different, but they don't want to be different from the people that they consider their peers. So it's this whole of othering themselves, but make sure they're othering themselves as a group. And that can make it very easy for predators, whether they're of the sexual or monetary nature, to prey on them. Because you're really easy targets. Because all they have to do is just stroke your ego a little bit and you're done.
Yeah. So, non-binary and binary is itself a new binary. Just throwing that out there. But anyway,
I'm aware of that, yeah.
So let's make fun of AI. Photographer disqualified from AI image contest after winning with real photo.
Well, I mean, he broke the rules,
Uno
so
reverse.
there you go.
Just
Oh,
present
that's
that
great.
as is. Let's see. Let's see. Should we do a palette cleanser? Oh, I was talking about Riven earlier. Yeah. Riven remake is out now. Already has 95% rating on Steam.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty damn good rating.
Well, I mean, considering the fact that most people who are going to play it are the people who like that kind of game.
Yeah. I
And
was about
puzzle
to say.
games, and there hasn't really been a lot of puzzle games
Mm-hmm.
out. I think the last one was
Not of this
Talos.
caliber for sure.
Well,
Talos
Talos is
Principle.
those are actually really good. But they're not. But it doesn't have. It's not Riven. They're not Riven. And Riven and Myst are like these iconic, amazing games that it's kind of like, hell yeah, let's do this.
And they've held up.
Well, yeah, they're puzzle. I mean, you have to be really shit at making a puzzle game for it not to hold up. You have to be real shit.
Yeah.
Like, but it's one of those things where it's kind of like, there's Riven and Vista.
I would offer up Leisure Suit Larry as an example. One
Well,
that
Leisure
should
Suit
not
Larry's
have-
held up by a certain fan, by its part of its fan base, because they still love it. There's
it's
a
just
let-
the nostalgia guys like me. I'm out there playing Commander Keen, and I play Leisure Suit Larry once in a while. But
Oh yeah, well, it's the same people do the same thing with Monkey Island, and
yeah, Monkey Island's another good.
King's
that's
Quest.
A good example. Good
King's
example.
Quest,
King's
both
Quest,
the-
absolutely. King's
Both
Quest
the
4.
remake and the original, because I actually think the remake is pretty good because they understood that they couldn't redo the original, so they did their own thing and it
I
worked.
love all those
Day
quests.
of the Tentacle.
Yeah, Day of the Tentacle.
I
Yeah,
played so much of the original Doom for a while there. I mean,
Yes.
I was playing so much of it that I was at work and I walked around a corner and there was a long crate. It was like long and I looked at it, and the
fucking
first thing that popped into my head was, "Oh, it's more ammo for my railgun." Wait,
right.
no, that's the imaginary world. But I'd played so much Doom that I thought it was an ammo reload, and I almost
Do you
tripped over it.
find yourself avoiding 55-gallon drums?
Absolutely. Anyway, that
Let's
was
blow
good
up.
fun. So
The worst is when you get that with Tetris.
yeah,
Like everything, even people become Tetris pieces, and you just it's weird.
Like, all
Tetris
right,
was pretty
everybody-
cool.
Worst acid trip I've ever been on.
so I apologize in advance for what I'm about to do here.
No, you don't.
We discovered
He's
toilet
not
sloths
sorry.
and found hell.
Oh no!
Widow
It's a
Thing.
sloth that lives in the toilet. It's in the Amazon rainforest.
Oh, poor Widow
I was
They
not
have toilets
expecting.
there?
I was expecting more ew than awe. You people
No,
surprised me.
Well, I mean, it's still disgusting, but I feel bad for the sloth.
Yeah, like what the heck is it doing in the toilet?
Well, it's like toilet. He's eating feces and things.
Yeah.
He's a terrible, terrible thing. It's just this nasty, nasty
Well,
sloth.
It's probably a desperation thing where there's not. It's just easier for them not to move and for them to stay there. It's because they're not exactly known for. Their
Well, I mean,
fast
that's very
movement.
adaptable, but I thought sloths had higher standards. I didn't expect it to be living in the outhouse.
Please, no. As someone who deals with animals day in, day out, no, they don't. No animal has a high standard. None of them do, except for the crusty white dogs that the rich old white ladies own.
Okay.
Those are the only.
I gotta
things.
say, it kind of bothered me. So as a palate cleanser,
Hurry.
You were wrong,
Sorry.
Harry.
Load.
I was disgusted.
Orphaned BC sea otter pup in critical condition receiving 24-hour care. There's a sea otter pup at the Vancouver.
An orphaned sea otter
thing.
pup is settling in well after being taken to a rescue center in Vancouver. The pup was seen without its mom in Tofino late Monday afternoon and transported to the Vancouver Aquarium Marine Mammal Rescue Society. The pup was
lovely.
lethargic at first, having been without her mom, although the rescue group says it's still unclear for how long. But since arriving, she's been given
Okay,
around-the-clock
that's
care.
Do you like her little toy? Do
baby.
you like her little
Yeah.
toy?
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's like a little octopus plushie.
It's a little octopus.
So
It's
you-
a little squishy thing, so it squeakies.
You forgot to mention that you guys have an aquarium.
Yeah.
This is not very good.
I think it's been bought by somebody now, or they funded it,
The
and
Ripley's?
huh?
They turned ours into a Ripley's.
Ew.
No, it's now more for conservation. It used to be a really nice aquarium, like it was nice for a little while. Then somebody poisoned the belugas.
Does it have sunfish?
No sunfish, sadly. We used to have a sloth many years ago. There's a tropical area you could walk through that's like forest, like a rainforest tropic stuff. And
Nice.
there was a sloth who just hung out and walked around like the vines around the ceiling. It was great. It wasn't contained. It was like in the open, so everyone could walk underneath it. It was lovely.
Just keep them out of the outhouse.
But it's like, with most things, the whales and stuff like that in cramped quarters, and they all mysteriously died because the way the animal activists thought would, how it'll help to help the animals? Let's just poison them.
Oh,
Of course, nothing was 100% ever determined, but how the heck can perfectly healthy animals suddenly die of toxicity, and it was found to have some sort of poisons, and couldn't figure out how it got into their digestive system and all that sort of stuff. So
well, PETA kills a
Yeah.
lot of animals.
they did have pools.
Mhm.
So like in high school, part of science, we went there and we got to like have fun with, sea cucumbers and that kind of stuff. That was neat.
The Monterey Bay Aquarium is pretty cool, I gotta say. A.K.A. the Cetacean Institute from Star Trek 4. That's a great thing. Well,
But
I
no,
guess...
this is not a place I would necessarily tell people to.
All
go.
right,
Just
well-
like I wouldn't send people to our zoo, because that place is so freaking depressing. It will kill your soul.
well,
Just saying the Monterey Bay Aquarium is cool
it is cool.
doesn't really do it justice. It's amazing. It's really amazing.
It's the best thing of its type that I've ever been to, and I've been to
Me
several
too.
different
And I've
things.
been to one or two
Yeah.
around the world.
So we have to talk about this briefly. The debacle that happened on Thursday. And we don't need to get into that because everybody's already talked about how sad and how Jill Biden's guilty of elder abuse and just all the other things, right? So then the question is, well, what happens after this? So people are sort of wondering, are they going to 25th Amendment Biden? I like that
No.
freeze frame.
No.
Nice.
They will not 25th Amendment this guy because Kamala Harris has to lead that party. And they will never get her on board because Biden will say to her, you do something like that and you and I are done. And that means you're done in the party. Biden has enough chits to send Kamala out on an ice floe.
Well,
And she's very nearly there anyway.
Well,
Probably it's going to happen anyway.
yeah.
But if she tried to do anything like that, or even started to get on board with somebody, with the Obamas come in and say, okay, it's time to do this, or Susan Rice or Valerie Jarrett or one of those guys come in and say it's time to 25 the old fool. There's just going to be too much political will against that, and Biden is absolutely convinced in his heart that he can beat Trump in this election, and he's fixated on it.
Well,
I don't think there's a way in the world he's going to get out of the way unless something physically
something might happen at the convention. That's the
awful
thing.
happens to him.
The question is, will something happen at the convention? So people keep talking about Gavin Newsom as being the guy who might replace him at the convention.
Too many Dems hate him.
I know, but to his
national
credit,
debt
he
sites.
he realizes that if he is the one that basically, et tu brutes him, metaphorically speaking, that he will not. The person who does that, whether it's in England or in the United States, never ends up being the one to profit from it. That's the way the system works. Somebody has to do the bad thing of, turning against Biden, and then somebody who is not that person has to then come in and fill the void that gets created. And
Then
Newsom is
Luckily,
trying
he
not
filled
to
the
be
big shoes of the great man.
Newton.
But-
Go
But,
ahead.
but the thing is that by that standard, then Kamala would be the sacrificial lamb.
If they do it if they do a 25th Amendment thing as opposed to just challenging him in the primary at the convention.
Which that's the thing is like, it so allegedly / my own twisted mind like you wait till the national convention, you make sure that he has some kind of flub, trips himself, whatever. Kamala declares 25th. People like, oh no, we can't do that, blah blah blah, but actually fake it, but still allow the 25th to go through. She takes over temporarily. Gavin gets pushed to the forefront. He shows he's better at it than she is, trying to push the competency thing. That's the way you would do it if you wanted to do it. Now, whether anyone's that intelligent or that ballsy, I don't know. Yeah. But that's what I would do.
Yeah, if you look at the polls from March, because there aren't really a current one that I've been able to find, but if you look from March, at Trump versus Newsom, Trump wins by, over 20 points.
Well, yeah.
So I mean, I'm not saying that he's a viable candidate, but all of
yeah. No,
this
I
is
know.
this is kind of reminds me of what happened in the UK. You have to, because they've been having all kinds of trouble in the Conservative Party, and it turns out that if you have to be like a little weasel like Michael Gove, you don't end up becoming prime minister. The person who sort of metaphorically twists the knife doesn't profit from it, and so Newsom is trying to be like, here he's like the lady in waiting. I'm here, the understudy. He's doing his best not to turn against Biden, but at the same time he's doing things like debating DeSantis and going around doing a lot of stuff. He's doing a lot of the things you would do if you were campaigning without calling it campaigning.
Oh yeah.
He wants it so badly.
Well, he does, and it's like it's one of those things for someone with that ego. I mean, anybody with that ego. I don't give a damn who the hell you are. That's kind of the biggest thing. But it's like at this point, because of the fact, and this is not a dig at you, Harry. I just want to make this very, very clear.
Were you going to say things about California?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Considering the fact that California, whenever they try to defend themselves, they're always like, well, we have the highest GDP. Yeah, you also have the highest debt. Shut the fuck up. Newsom isn't helping anything.
Yeah.
The fact that there's like anybody with a quarter of a brain cell would say the Los Angeles County thing with the air quotes mansion tax failed miserably. Your housing has failed. You're massively in debt. You've had to pass on $10,000 taxes on top of everything else business owners have to do in your state because you can't pay back your own bullshit. You were caught at the French Laundry during COVID, even though you told everybody to sit home and sit and stay home.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't like DeSantis. I think he's an arrogant prick. But at the same time, when it comes down between him or Newsom, I'm picking DeSantis every time.
That's not even a hard question.
Yeah.
So
But it's that thing of like, you have to be really fucking blind to pick Newsom. And there's liberals who hate Newsom, like massively, like Skep said. There's Democrats that hate him. Like, so it's like, ooh,
Yeah.
I don't know who's advising him, but someone better get all that money and run. That's all I'm saying.
Well, another thing happened this week, which was also kind of beautiful. Progressives lash out at AI PAC after anti-Israeli squad loses first member in U.S. House race. Jamal Bowman, he lost his primary bid to a much more traditional Democrat by double digits again. It wasn't even close. He got his ass handed to him, and this is one squad member that's just going away. And it really, the progressives are blaming, basically the Israeli-Gaza conflict, the fact that it's starting to tear the party apart. To which I say, good. Enjoy your Big Ten. Try getting along. Fine.
Yeah.
I think it's a shame because now he has a chance to disappear from the public discourse, and the man's a criminal. He should be facing charges, and he's not.
Yeah. We have plenty of other lolcow criminals to take his place.
Yeah. And so, big picture with the Biden thing, I think that they're still going to run with him, and because nobody's going to throw themselves on that proverbial grenade, um, and they're going to use this time to do one of two things: either people like the lady in waiting or whoever else are going to use the next 4.5 years to build up that brand, or they're going to cheat again. And you know,
Yeah. Well, some of the other names that they were
I
floating
do.
around are just terrible.
Well,
Like
I mean, that's the
Hochul and
thing.
Whitmer. Oh my God!
Yeah,
Can
I
you
know that's the thing
imagine?
because if you like, I watched the entire thing beginning to end. If you watch the I don't know what you would call them, the CNN propagandists, the talking heads of CNN, um, in all their satellites, they were all basically ready for a battle, and we didn't get a battle. We got an old man getting assassinated on stage, um, and they were very taken aback by what they just saw, and it took them a good 24 hours, maybe 12 hours, for the spin to start, like the shock to wear off, and them to start spinning everything again. And uh, I don't think that any of the people that people are thinking of are really anywhere near this consideration. And like I said, if they don't find some way to cheat in the election, again, they will use that time to find the right person and start building up that right person, or a handful of people, will spring up and they'll do something there. So they've got time to rebuild. And this is kind of what I've been, punching for, is that that side of the aisle really needed to take a really big loss for them to sort of implode and reform into something, because I don't want just one dominating party in any kind of democratic systems like we use.
Like
I want there to
California
be
has at
healthy
the state
competition
level.
between the two.
Yeah.
What?
Like California has at the state level. We basically have a uniparty,
Yeah. I mean,
and it's
there's
great.
some states that are definitely like that, where as much crap as I'd like to give it, one thing that's actually fairly decent about the state of my province is there is healthy competition between the two parties, but it's in the end it's all facile, because it's just for show. It's a complete uniparty, but at least on the political discourse level, there is a good fight had every time.
Yeah. Well, something else good
It's going to be
happened.
interesting because
The thing is also with and this is the Republican Party has kind of had the same issue, had the same thing that the Tories did in
Yes.
England, where there's been new younger blood coming in,
Mm-hmm.
where you haven't really had that much younger blood in the Democrat Party, not really. And like the
if
old,
they are, they're complete shills for the party.
well, that's the thing, is like a lot of the old guard are too old now, like, or they're distrusted. Like Kamala Harris is not trusted. Hillary Clinton's too old.
Pelosi,
Pelosi's too old. Schumer's too old.
Nadler, Schiff,
Biden, yeah, they're all too old. So it's
they're
one of
not
those
trusted.
And then there's ones like AOC, which in a weird way, and I don't like saying this about people's lives, like I feel icky, but at the same time, you have to look at everything as, and I hate to say it this way, the spectrum. In a way, the Gaza, the Hamas Israel war kind of has helped with that, because it's shown their bullshit, because it's like you're siding with this group of people who've done all these murders, but you think because of did the attack, sorry, and you're siding with all these people who did this attack, but at the same, and are doing damage to our universities and stuff like that, but you're only siding with them because of the fact that because you think they're lesser than you, because they're dark skinned, and that's
backing the wrong horse. Like she backed. Sorry to interrupt again.
Yeah.
But like she backed with Bowman. I don't know if you saw that video, but she was like jumping around like a fucking spider monkey, going, "Oh my God, Jamal's gonna win!" Like,
yeah, and that's kind of the thing of like this kind of mixing up. I like, because there does need to be. I'm a registered independent in my state. I can vote in both primaries in my state because of that. I think that's the way the entire system should be throughout the country, personally. But it's one of those things where it's kind of like, I don't like having a uniparty. My state has flipped. My state went from hard blue to hard red in the span of 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's been great for the state too.
Well, we've always stayed pretty good because we're all get paid under the table anyway. But anyway, but it's one of those things where it's kind of like, flipping is not a bad thing if the flipping occurs because of the standards change in the proper way, or at the very least, it's keeping with the majority's kind of stance on things. Like, as proven by this guy losing, it wasn't. I'm not a biggest fan of lobbyists, or PACs, but at the same time, you can't convince everybody who's going to vote to share your mindset. Mm-hmm. Like, a lot of the anti-Israeli stuff is not anti-Israeli, it's anti-Semitic. It really is. And that's the thing, is they're showing, and as someone who's looked at a bunch of the stuff that IPAC has done in the past, they don't really do massive amounts of, like, bullshit. They basically just go, this is what they've done. Read it how you want to. And it's kind of shown that these people are fair weather friends, I guess the best way to put it. Whereas, as long as you hit, no matter what the criteria, whether you hit the non-heteronormative sexualities or you hit the non-white skin tone, you are our friend. But the minute you no longer have our stance or agree with us, you are no longer our friend. And that's kind of the thing of, like, what has got to happen with the Democrat Party is that it's got to get the shakeup. Now, I do think the Republican Party needs a shakeup too, because while they can be entertaining at times, there's way too many people who act like assholes that don't need to be acting like assholes. But for right now, if this kind of kick in the pants gets things the way they should, I'm okay with it. I'm a white pill ass motherfucker. I will look for silver lining in anything, and this is the way it's going to go, because I refuse to be depressed about this shit.
Well, would you like some good news?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There was a Supreme Court decision, which is pretty damn awesome.
Yep.
Supreme Court sides with fishermen in a landmark case deciding fate of the administrative state. Essentially, there was a principle that was being used that said the courts, unless the Congress has basically passed some sort of law, we should give the executive branch and its agencies leeway to sort of do whatever it wants as long as it doesn't contradict what the Congress says, right?
Yeah.
And the courts should just take a hands-off approach to that. And the decision was essentially of the form, this is giving the executive branch way more power than they were intended to have, and hamstringing the judicial branch in doing things that they justifiably have a reason to do. Mm-hmm. It's literally their job to review the laws and the implementation. So although it's a bit dry and a bit boring, anything that reins in executive power, in my book, there's not nearly enough of that. More of this, please.
I get that, and this is something I'm completely ignorant on, so please educate me. So what? If this government entity wants to do X, and so they do X, then, and there's no laws preventing or anything to do with X, then why would that be a problem? Because if there needed to be a law to regulate X, then I would assume the judicial branch of government would step in and be like, okay, well, hold up.
Well, they weren't. They weren't. That was the problem. There was a principle that was being followed since the 80s that essentially said, Supreme Court, just take your hands off of the agencies of the executive branch.
Oh, so this was hamstringing this.
This was keeping the court. This is basically this decision is basically saying, no, the court is now going to assert itself again. That was stupid, and the government agencies can't just do whatever they want to do.
I see the issue now. It was this what do you call this?
Well,
Chevron?
that was the principle that they were talking about, the Chevron principle.
But this was literally saying no. The judicial branch can't get involved in this type of.
Yeah, well, I mean,
right?
here's what it says. The Supreme Court on Friday ruled in favor of a group of fishermen who challenged a decades-old legal doctrine that they say gave the administrative state too much power over their businesses. Essentially, they were making them carry expensive monitors as part of doing the business, and it was just going to bankrupt the small fishermen. The court's decisions overruled what is known as the Chevron doctrine, a legal theory established in the 1980s that says if a federal regulation is challenged, the courts should defer to the agency's interpretation of whether Congress had granted it authority to issue the rule, as long as the agency's interpretation is reasonable and Congress had not addressed the question directly. So in the absence of Congress talking about it, the agencies could largely do whatever the hell they wanted to do. That's my reading
make
of
up their
it.
own laws and regulations willy-nilly, and nobody could get involved.
Way too much power in the executive. That's the
now
problem.
I fully understand, and that's.
And all
retarded.
those
Good on
executive
you guys.
orders go out to these departments, and then they implement whatever the hell. And it's like ATF, Department of the Interior, all of their best and finest people, right, Skep? Because I know you love our Department of the Interior person.
Oh, sure.
Isn't she the best? Holland?
Yeah.
Oh, she's
Yeah,
so good.
Well,
That was sarcasm.
Agencies, yeah, I know. The agency's ability to control people's behavior has turned to abuse, and I think that's what got the attention of the court. I think they were looking for a case to come along and say, all right, we're going to push back the tide of this, because some of these federal agencies are getting so horsey and so frisky with the government gun to force companies and citizens to conform to their interpretation, oftentimes, of a regulation or law. That isn't a power that was foreseen or desirable for those agencies to have, because it basically makes them little dictators in their area of influence, and that's what the court is saying.
Yeah,
that was a good decision.
It's a fantastic decision. There's a thing that came up in the EU. They're doing the same thing that they always do. Won't somebody think of the children vis-a-vis technology, where they want to create ways for the state. And of course, they will never abuse this. They will only use this power for the benefit of the children and never use it for some other purpose, right? They essentially want to cripple encryption in ways that let them monitor people's online communications. Are there bad people that do things with the internet? Absolutely. But the problem with this is the same problem that's always come up. And I'm not going to flog a dead horse here. Anytime you make it so encryption works so that people can monitor what's going on inside encrypted communications, you're just handing the bad actors a giant present. All of that kind of weakening just makes it so people that don't like us have the ability to take advantage of those exploits. If you give yourself a backdoor, somebody's going to find it.
I was about to say almost those words. If you put a backdoor in there, it will be exploited. That's exactly what I was going to say here.
Yeah, it's like the government
right.
saying, well, we're effectively your landlord. We need to have a master key to your front door. And Fourth Amendment, don't worry about that. It'll be fine. We'll only use it if we hear a baby crying. Shut up.
Well, it's one of those things where it's kind of like, it kind of shows that they don't learn from their own bullshit. Because it's like, okay, the EU headquarters, if I remember correctly, is it in Germany or is it in? It's in
Brussels.
Brussels.
But they actually do separate sessions where they move everything from Brussels to some other location. It's not a huge it's a huge boondoggle. They take their entire apparatus, all their people, filing cabinets, everything, and they literally move it to some other place that I can't remember where it is, and then they move it back to Brussels. But never mind me. Ignoring me, I'm just being stupid.
But it's one of those things where it's kind of like Germany is still having issues with the NA party.
Yeah.
Even though they supposedly have done all this stuff, like you can't do the salute or any of that kind of stuff. And it's one of those things where it's kind of like, you're in Germany. You think someone would look and go, huh, controlling speech hasn't stopped this shit, and it's actually given them the ability to get stronger.
Yeah.
Because they use it against us. No, we're just going to triple down at this point. Never mind. Fuck it.
Yeah, merging with Eastern Germany and bringing in those people into your government, that's working great. It's, you literally just brought in some terrible, terrible people and pulled them into your government as part of unification. And now you're stuck with just this huge undercurrent of just terrible ideas. But
it's one of those things where it's just kind of like, guys, come on. Like, you like, I understand that the EU is basically controlled by a dictator at this point, because God forbid they be allowed to vote for their own leadership. God. But it's one of those things where it's kind of like, come on, guys, you're not that stupid.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
you're
remember in the Clinton administration, which is like ancient days in terms of the internet, right? The 90s, they were talking about this thing called the Clipper chip. And the Clipper chip was going to be this hardware encryption thing, but of course there was going to be brokered keys that the government could have, so like they could get into your. That thing crashed and burned faster than DivX, which was that encryption thing for keeping people from copying DVDs. Though I digress.
That worked.
Just
I
really,
remember when Clipper went
isn't
EU. That was funny.
that was hilarious. I'm sorry, Sora. What were you going to say?
I'm just gonna out myself. DivX? I thought that's what you used to be able to actually play things.
Oh yeah.
Whoops. were you not allowed supposed to be using it that way? The internet.
You're just copying
Here's-
DVD movies onto your home media server for backup purposes, right? You're allowed to make a backup of your own DVDs, right?
100%.
And what was
That's
it
a
that
joke,
McCarthy,
by the way. Don't come after me.
that McCarthy said about bureaucracy is like the only thing saving us from bureaucracy is the fact that it's so inefficient.
Yeah.
They've learned they're becoming more efficient and more bloodthirsty. It's scary.
Yeah, computers, AI, Hanlon's razor. That's
Well, yeah, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole, but I mean the handing over the internet to the bureaucrats and corporations was a big mistake.
yeah. Well, do you see what I'm showing now? New York City shuttered 80% of its Airbnbs in an attempt to make housing more affordable. All that's done so far is make hotels more expensive. Yeah. Yeah. You cannot, the invisible hand, the market just doesn't care what government wants to do. You can't just micromanage an
Diminish
economy.
supply.
It never works.
If you diminish supply and demand remains unchanged, there will be an increase in price according to the elasticity of both sides.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is that this is a lot more nuanced than that article title's giving it, just for the sheer fact of, like, Airbnbs are getting ridiculous to even try to do anymore, as in try to stay in one. Because many of the owners are like, well, you have to pay a cleaning fee, but you have to strip the beds, you have to run the dishwasher, you have to vacuum, you have to make sure. Yeah, and it's like, it's one of those things. It's like,
I would rather pay. So I would rather
Yeah.
pay an extra $100 in
Yep.
total, maybe not per night, but to go to a hotel
Yep.
and not have to do one of those things.
Yep.
Yeah, this
And
is
then-
like
and
the
that's-
taxi versus Uber discussion, because I have friends who are like, just give me a good old-fashioned taxi. Some guy with a medallion who does this for a living, they just hate Ubers and Lyfts.
Well, the thing is, though, is that as far as I know, the shuttering was only like the full shuttering was only like a couple months ago. This is too soon to see. Besides, with it being summertime, the prices went up anyway in the summertime for the hotels in New York. Like, this is, I get kind of what they're saying, but this is something that's going to take us 6 months to a year before we see the full ramifications of the effect. This is making a massive jump to assumption based on.
And that's
Other
a very
F
good
factors.
point. You're in the middle of tourist season,
Yeah.
or the start of.
Because there's still stupid people who go to New York City in the middle of summer,
Yeah,
which
was
I
just
still haven't
thinking the
figured that
same
out.
thing.
Like, they still do it. I don't know why, but they do.
Well, I mean, wintertime, you go to the park and they have like a little miniature village. And I mean, supposedly
Every
New York is an
time I-
amazing place to go at Christmas time.
Every
It
time
is.
I've gone
Yeah.
to New York, all of the 5 times have always been, well, 4 out of the 5 times have been at Christmas time, and once was just in the fall. But yes, that would be the time that I would have recommended back before the 2000s to when you visited New York to go in those times of year, because not only is Christmas a magical time of year, but it's like the entire city is in that, and it's kind of cliche to say, but they're in that kind of spirit, even though, you know, there's slush all over and it's cold, but I mean, you walk down through Central Park, it's fucking fantastic. There's stuff going on. You walk through Manhattan, there's all these lights, and it was such a magical time, and to see what it's turned into.
Yeah.
But also, we're also going into the July 4th when everybody likes to go to. A lot of people like to go to New York for July 4th.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
I've had when you on the I think it's one of the waterfronts. It's either east or something like that. They have a massive fireworks show.
Yeah, with the Statue of Liberty and the fireworks going
that
off.
Makes sense. That makes sense.
I mean, I know
But
it's a
also,
present from the
mostly
French,
here-
but still.
Mostly here, everybody wants to get away from cities, away from population centers.
Okay, the actual New York residents want to leave. The tourists from everywhere else want to go to New York City to see it. So it's the switching of the guard. Every New York New York citizens that can do it will go to like the Hamptons or Long Island or something like that to get out of the town.
Yeah.
But all the tourists then come in and do all that kind of stuff. That's not including Fleet Week. No, Fleet Week was like 4 weeks ago or something like that. So Fleet Week's over with.
And you could rent out your house on Airbnb while you're gone to help recoup what you're paying in rent somewhere else. But the people in the government think by outlawing it, you're just going to turn it into a long-term rental. No. There's a reason why Airbnbs exist, and I know some people buy properties just for the purpose of renting them out that way, but I just don't like this kind of government stuff, and I think we'll see more over time.
Too.
Yeah,
they're doing that here too on the island.
Yep.
Same thing. They're and I think they're fighting back against it to say like this is ridiculous. You know, some people are actually, a lot of people are using their rental as an income source, and a good chunk of them are actually retirees, and they're like, okay, well, you know, we put our savings into the second property, and then we're going to, you know, add that to whatever we're going to get for retirement. This will be our nest egg, and so they live off of the Airbnb. Problem is that okay, we're going to get rid of this. People aren't selling. You can't sell these properties. There's nobody buying them for what, you know, like they're not able to. You're getting rid of this idea of like you can no longer have this as short-term rental. You have to either get rid of it or sell it, you know, like, or actually put it out on the market or whatever it is that you're doing. And now people aren't finding people to either rent from or purchase the property.
Yeah, they changed the rules after the fact.
That's going to be a little bit of a fight.
Well, people bought these things thinking that they were going to make it work financially by using Airbnb as part of it, and then they changed the rules after the fact, and it just screws a lot of innocent people. You know, these aren't, like you said, a lot of times these are owned by individuals of limited income. This is part of sort of their retirement plan. And it's ridiculous, and it's not going to solve the housing problem by forcing, because they're not going to turn these into short-term, long-term rentals. That's a different kind of risk, right? Because in the current year, especially in crazy, loony, liberal places like we live in, long-term rentals have their own types of risk that are different, and a lot of people don't want them. You know, you rent to somebody for more than a certain amount of time, and then suddenly they have rights to your property, and it takes a long time to get them to go away.
But that's also happening with Airbnb, though.
Only if you rent for longer times. With an Airbnb, you can rent Airbnbs for a more limited period of time, such that a lot of the real squatters' rights don't kick in, and that's the thing that people can do. There are people who stupidly will rent them for longer, where they have like the worst of both worlds.
But there's still people trying to do that. That's the thing.
Yeah.
People trying to squat. And then the government takes too long to do anything, and then they've made it past the squatters' rights time.
Well, remember in the Hollywood Hills, the doctor that rented the place out, he rented that thing out for like a year. And at that point, that woman said, yeah, I think I'm just going to stay. and then we got to talk about it.
as much as I don't, I'm not a, in the words of Harry, I am not a capital
Not
L
magician.
libertarian. I do think there needs to be some regulation with Airbnb though, because some of
Yeah.
these people are charging, and I'm not talking about the nightly stay charge. I'm not talking
Yeah.
about that. I'm talking about them charging $200 for a cleaning fee, and then making people clean, or the person leaves and they left the apartment in the pretty good or house in a pretty good state, but somehow the owner of the house finds something wrong and then fines them money and then
There
gets
needs
them
to be
fined.
some sort of established
Yeah.
method of business in this specific service.
Yeah.
Like you said, regulation. I hate using the word because it's got a bad connotation. Because once again, the bureaucrats have taken regulation and destroyed industries. Like it's the I kind of don't feel sorry for the people like the hypothetical people Harry's bringing up. Like, yeah, sure, they wanted to make a buck with what they got, and I can't fault them for that. But they're doing it by skirting the already laid out standards of business that say, everybody else, like hotels and short-term and long-term rentals, have to go through. Same thing with the Uber thing. Now, on a personal level, am I going to use an Uber a lot of the time because it's cheaper than calling an actual cab? Yes, but I always feel safer and better in the cab, even though I know that a lot of what I'm looking at and paying for and have to put up with when I take a cab is the bureaucracy around it that's just too much. So I think having a happy median, and I think most people can agree, where there's just enough regulation to give both parties involved some protections, but not enough to get them and need to have them involved at every level. Like that's just insane.
Well, you have to disclose certain things. I mean, there are certain business practices you can't get out from under. So you have to disclose things ahead of time. People need to know what kind of relationship they're going into. And ultimately, the other big check has nothing to do with the government. It's just that if you are a shitty person and you have a shitty Airbnb, people will give you a bad rating. And then other people will know not to rent that from that particular user. And if that's not a system that works well now, they really need to fix it. Or Airbnb is not going to be in business for very long.
But specifically, Harry, I was talking like here, there was, I don't know if it was proposed or went through because I don't use Airbnb. I don't really pay attention. But there was a municipal tax that was levied upon all B&B and similar style businesses. And
of course
that was,
there were.
yeah, I mean, of course. But that's just one example I'm saying of like, just the government getting involved. Like,
Yep. Well, they jack up
bureaucracy,
like the
whatever.
hotel taxes, and then they wonder why people don't want to have conventions there. They jack up the airport. But anyway, that's enough of that. We have other things we need to talk about too. So
I love it when people like come up with the next big good, or not. It doesn't even have to be big, but another good idea of doing business. Like I think Amazon, at its core, was a really great thing. It kicked off this whole delivery industry that's now been, exploding across the realm.
it's good.
It's very good.
So I want to talk
especially
about
for
crime
someone
and
like me.
I want to talk about
Okay.
crime and punishment. Okay.
I was just trying to fill some.
And I know that's a title of a book, but sorry, apologies. So there's a couple of these stories, and these keep coming up, right?
Fyodor Dostoevsky.
Exactly. $44,000 worth of metal plaques honoring Woodland Hills teachers stolen. I guess they decided, hey, we're gonna, for the teachers and stuff, sort of as a little honor thing, they set up these metal plaques commemorating a bunch of them, and being made of metal, assholes came and just stole them. There's also a bridge in Southern California. I don't have a link to that article, which has all these lights on it. It's down in LA. It like goes over the aqueduct.
They
And-
steal the copper wiring.
And they steal the copper wiring, and then they put it back in, and then they steal it again, and then they put it back in, and they steal it again. And so it's been over 6 months now that there have been no lights on this bridge because assholes just keep stealing the damn things. And then, we have this story here from San Francisco. Copper thieves cut 16,000 wires, knock out 911 service for 3 Bay Area cities. Yeah.
Just bury these people under a jail.
Well, there's been all this
Leave
stuff.
them outside. You know what? Bury them in the sand up to their necks near fire ants.
Well, there's
Leave them
this whole thing about
in the desert.
the carceral system, right? This is what liberals like to talk about. We want to make sure that the crime, that the punishment fits the crime, and that is a terrible, terrible idea.
Oh, no. They've pulled out the wiring. You pull out their intestines. Wiring,
Exactly.
kind of like intestines. Punishment fits the crime. There you go.
Yeah.
Or you put them in a super magnet that pulls the iron and other minerals out of their bloodstream, like through their pores.
Now, I like where you're going with this, but I thought to myself, I was starting to think in terms of like the economics of it and how the crime starts to work. And I wanted to put this into words. And I run across this. It says, penalty has no impact on crime, a game theoretic analysis. Now, I think this paper is horseshit. Okay. I read through a bunch of this crap and I think it's just nonsense, because the idea that more punishment doesn't deter crime, that might be true for crimes of passion, for certain sort of one-on-one things. But when you have an organized group of people, like organized low-level thugs that just strip copper wire from building sites and 911 call phone number lines and memorial plaques and all this other stuff, they're doing it because they're making money on it. And because they know there's a very, very slim chance they're going to get caught. I think a better analysis is something more like this, which I was looking at the economics of crime and punishment, and specifically going into the second part. Where's section 2? You jerk. Sorry, it's hard to work with PDFs. Okay. The benefits and cost from crime. And I thought this did a better job of explaining it than I did. Okay. Because my theory is that you need to make the penalty for the crime big enough that it no longer becomes a good business proposition for these sort of low-level thugs. So they talk about the economic model of criminal behavior assumes that the decision to commit a crime is the result of a cost-benefit analysis that individuals undertake either consciously or subconsciously. The gains or losses included in the economic model are usually meant to represent all kinds of benefits and costs that have an effect on people's decisions. Now, there's a whole lot that goes into this, and I am not going to read all of this, but they talk about things like people who engage in crime view current, basically risks in the future differently. They might be like kind of down and out, and they're like, I don't care what happens later. I need money right now. So they don't view time, the value of time, the same way a lot of other people would. I think that if crime pays, people are going to commit crime. We seriously need to just start making it so crime doesn't pay, so that the fines are onerous enough that people don't go, yeah, I think I'm going to just go steal the copper wire from a 911 switchboard or plunge things into the dark, because I'm sick and tired of this crap. I'm so tired of these people going through and doing shit like this, that the idea that the punishment has to fit the crime, no, that is absolutely wrong. The punishment needs to be enough to deter the crime when you're talking about stuff like this. I'm just angry.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you also go ahead.
Well, hold on. Yeah, let's hear from Skep.
No, that's okay. Go ahead, Functional.
No, please go ahead.
I can hear from both of you in turn. Go Skep.
All right, I just don't. All right. There's a lot of social psychology out there. A lot of research and has been done in this. And where this guy is coming from, I think, is that when criminals make a decision to do a crime, it's not the result of a refined cost-benefit analysis. It's not even a rough one. With respect to the cost, they say, I'll never get caught. If they even think about it at all, their motivations for doing the crime, the way they think, are completely different from the way a rational person goes about considering a purchase. These people are driven by need, by desperation, or by anger at the system, or by simply wanting an easy way to score some money. There are a plethora of reasons why they do these crimes. And you can see them all broken out in nice pie charts in years and years of psychological research on this. And the the only way that you're going to deter some of these people is to lock them up for onerously long times, and that's the problem. Is that the idea of somebody who's caught the third time stealing copper, giving them an 80-year sentence is a way to deter them permanently, and that's the kind of statement that you have to make. You have to make it really horrible. And the problem is nobody wants to live in that society. The thought of putting an innocent person, taking a life away because you're mad about the copper being stolen again and again. Don't get me wrong, I am too. We always make the decision that we'd rather live in the society where we let them off and we make more copper and install that. And that it's one of those things. It's not a problem that lends itself to an easy solution like long sentences or shooting people on sight if you see them stealing copper. It's much more complex set of motivations that gets them, and deterring them. You can't deter all of them with one thing because they're motivated by too many different things. You would have to deter all of their motivations. But one thing they all do have in common: every single one of them is optimistic about not being caught.
Oh, absolutely. But I'm talking about organized stuff, because when you see these guys stealing catalytic converters, it's not one guy.
No,
it's a gang. It's a group of guys, and they do it because it makes money. I think as soon as it starts to become a gang and it becomes a business and you set up a process, they are working on a profit model, and they become a lot easier to understand. As you said, the individual, and like I said, crimes of passion, lots of other things, right? There's things that gets very complicated and messy because you're involved in people's feelings and fears and things. But the organized stuff, the shoplifting, where they have like the crews and then the warehouses and the distribution.
You want a RICO law for gang guys, don't you?
That's
actually an interesting idea.
I have no problem whatsoever taking repeat petty criminals and locking them up for like 20 years. It doesn't have to be 80 years, but even 10 years would be better. There are just
20 years to a 25-year-old is 80 years. That's 80 years to him.
Yeah, but you get jacked, in the yard, and you get cool tattoos and stuff like that.
Some sweet STDs.
Yeah, let's see where.
So I do agree to a certain extent that the punishment should fit the crime, but I think both two things need to be considered. One, in the case of like this copper wire thing, the implications of knocking out 911 service is actually a lot bigger of consequence of their actions that generally isn't in play when you're thinking of the appropriate punishment, the royal you, not you specifically, Gary.
One. Yes.
And yes, I do believe that it should fit the crime, but I think it should be severe enough to fit the crime. If somebody shoves a woman down a flight of subway stairs just because, that person shouldn't be thrown down the flight of stairs, but they shouldn't be let out back into the street in a week, in a year, probably not in 5 years, but probably 10, 15, 20 years, again, because that's a vicious assault that could have ended with severe injury at best and killing someone at worst.
Yeah. Where there's a lot of copper wire? Airports. I mean, I think it's kind of hard to have a functioning society when we let people off the hook for damaging key systems that keep people alive. Now, whether they intended to do that or not, I don't know, right? Obviously, they may not have even realized. They just saw copper and then got the dollar signs. Now, the thing you're talking about... Oh, go, Sora, and then I have something terrible to show.
I'm thinking for this with punish fit the crime, but also find out where they're selling this stuff.
Yeah.
If it's more difficult, say at the beginning, it's going to be more difficult to change like the laws for the actual criminals. Bring down the hammer and the people buying this stuff from them.
Receipt of stolen goods. Make that
Yeah.
as
Make it
punishable as the
worse.
theft.
Yep.
hmm
Well,
And then that's going to shut them down. Now, then the next step is, well, they're going to send it out of state, out of town, whatever. But then that plays
Good luck
into
with the copper.
that's going to make
That's
it
metal. It's heavy.
exactly. That's going to play into Harry's thing of making it more difficult for you, like onerous to commit the crime. So like, oh yeah, okay, you've done the heavy lifting, you've strapped all of this. Well, guess what? None of your place where you used to fence the stuff is going to pick it up because their buddy down the street just got his whole life destroyed because he got in a sting, got caught receiving stolen goods. Well, he's gone for 30 years. He's never had any crime, like done anything bad other than this in his life. Well, guess what? Too bad. His family's gone. Everyone's abandoned him. Nobody else is going to want to do the same, we're thinking. So then the next step is, well, we're going to get it out of town.
yeah. Well, I'm not a
Who's
capital
gonna have
L
the
libertarian.
money to someone's going to ask for a cut of that, say,
Yeah.
or they're going to ask you to give them money up front, and then suddenly, well, what's the point? Because now I'm paying you to dispose of my stuff.
Yep.
It's obviously it's more Hollywood than anything, but I think that's going to help a little bit.
Well, if you show up with
Maybe.
like 30 catalytic converters and you want to sell them for scrap platinum, it should be at least as hard as it is to buy Sudafed in California, because you can turn pseudoephedrine hydrochloride into bad things that ruin people's lives. You have to show ID to buy that. It could be just as easy as there just being some very minimal record keeping of who's selling all this scrap stuff. And like I said, I don't like a lot of government involvement, but this is one of these things where I would be definitely in favor of there at least being some record keeping and reporting of the people that are selling these things that are commonly stolen.
Yes, but that's not enough because it's very easy to slip something under the table and then the guy suddenly loses the piece of paper that he wrote your
Or you
name
give
down,
it, you pay a kid to take it in. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a good idea.
It's a
and
start.
It should be in place, but it's not enough. It should be implemented the same thing with harsher, like for the people at the junk shops
Yeah.
or recycling depots and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
All I'm saying is give jail a chance. That's all I'm saying.
Make
but-
jail great again.
Make jail great again. So,
How about enforce immigration laws?
so speaking of, yeah. Oh well, okay. Since you're going to do that, I'll show
Let's
you.
not go crazy now.
I've got
Hey,
two.
you didn't even sound like a bigot, Skep. I'm afraid we can't talk no more.
All right. So let me talk about the thing that Functional mentioned. The person getting pushed down, and then we'll talk about the immigration
Did you
aspect
actually
of
have
it.
that?
Well, I have a thing here. This is. Well, I don't know if it's the same one you're thinking of.
Because that's not fair. That's not justice.
After a brutal, unprovoked attack by a homeless man at a McDonald's drive-thru in Boyle Heights that left 74-year-old Jose Juan Rangel battered and bruised, and his wife, Maria Guadalupe Vargas Luna, brain dead in the hospital, the family has received yet another blow.
You're gonna
this time
not believe
from the
this.
LA County District Attorney's Office.
The
It's Gascon.
DEA is, in my opinion, brushing it off. They're not really seeing the big picture of what an impact the injuries that my dad and my stepmother suffered.
Following opinion is of mine and does not reflect anyone else on the panel, but some people just need to fucking die.
At least leave. So the
Gascon.
Gascon, what his office is basically claiming is that since the person that attacked these people didn't intend for this woman to become brain dead by knocking her over and having her head get hit, because there was no intention to hurt her, they want to charge him with a misdemeanor instead. So this woman's effectively dead. He's going to be charged with a misdemeanor, at least involuntary manslaughter. The fact that it happened during the commission of a crime should push it well past that. At least involuntary manslaughter. The idea that he should be tried for a misdemeanor for killing some woman is insane. It's absolutely insane. I don't know why the people in LA haven't recalled him yet.
Yeah. This is one of those things where if you walk up to some guy who's being rude and you shout, "Hey, stop being rude," real loud at him, and he keels over from a heart attack because you surprised him. Is that involuntary manslaughter? Because that's kind of what you're saying.
No, I don't think.
Okay, how's it different?
Well, I mean, you would go to trial, and I don't think a jury of your peers would send you to jail for that.
No. Give me principles. Give me the principle that is different, though, because I don't see a difference.
What you're saying is what is the limiting principle, and obviously, there always has to be some sort of reasonable man test in these sort of things, and that's what the jury process is supposed to do. You don't try cases that you don't think are viable because they have limited resources. Any DA that would a DA wouldn't come after you for this case. No sane DA would. Maybe if your last name was TRUMP. Yeah, sorry, but Skep was going to say something. Well, you were asking for a limiting principle, and I'm just saying that I don't think that the DA would charge you, and I don't think a jury would convict you. That's the safety valve, because what is the limiting principle? Reasonableness. And that's why you have to get people involved in the process. I don't know if you could write a law that would be immune from this sort of thing.
As long as the possibility of jury nullification exists, or jury influencing by counsel one way or the other, that's an amount of discretion that they can get around any principle in this. I actually think we should do away with the jury system. I think the jury system is ridiculous. I think judges should be they should be almost a religious breed of people, almost like monks, and a different personality than what we have. I would organize society completely different, and it'd be a party.
I think I saw this in Futurama.
But the issue is that, like any societal pipe dream, is that you're relying on the fact that human beings will not be human beings, or that you can litigate.
I'm not sure I'm relying on that, but
well, I mean, the thing is, monks weren't perfect. We saw the corruption of Catholicism.
Look, just because I'm not asking for perfection. Okay?
Yeah.
What I'm asking for is for people who make a commitment for the period of time that they're doing that, after a period of long training, that they will, in addition to adhering to the technical constraints and requirements of their job, they will also adhere to a set of moral principles that introduce morality into the law. Can you imagine that? Wherein they have a personal duty, a almost like a pecuniary duty, almost like you see in the financial world, where it forces them to be honest, forces them to be reasonable, because they have pledged themselves to this ideal. So if you had a group of intelligent people trying to live up to that ideal, and I think it's possible to have that, because people are naturally attracted to good and fair and decent ideals, and there are some broad principles that you can craft a set of rules about it. The problem with our laws is our laws have grown like topsy. We have no way to review our laws, to improve them, to do anything about regulations that get out of control, that extend from legislation that was meant for something else. There's so many things wrong with our legal system because it was thought up 200 years ago and has kind of mutated to try and semi-fix itself, but it's just completely out of phase. And so things like the jury system and some of the other things are obvious improvements that we could make, and it would improve our courts. Our courts are a nightmare right now. If you go into our courts, sorry for the rant.
That's fine.
If you go in our courts right now, it is an absolute nightmare if you're in criminal court. You don't know what's going to happen. God knows what's going to happen. Civil court is even worse. You don't get justice in the United States, at least not any justice that feels or looks like justice. It's justice in conformance to some bizarre set of principles stacked on each other that are not consistently evaluated by the attorneys, the judges, and other authorities in the course of that. There's no constant. There's no standard. There's too much local variation, and something that you can get away with in California. If some guy just murders somebody in Chicago, they've got a 90% unsolved murder case. That's effectively being able to get away with murder. You murder somebody in Midlothian, Texas, you probably won't make it to trial.
But my thing is, and this is the issue with every proposed system, which I agree this needs to change, is that yeah, they can take the oath. How many judges have taken oaths? How many people have taken oaths and then completely backtracked, or have completely lied through their teeth? And by that point, they've done enough, either at the lower system or the higher system, to screw everything. Like, and what happens if, for whatever reason, this system, if it's done by county, by state, whatever, gets infiltrated by, let's say, there's certain cities here in certain states that are now a major, certain religion of peace. What happens if it gets infiltrated by them? They start doing their specific type of laws, which states that certain individuals who enjoy the interactions with others of similar gender cannot occur. Does that mean that they all of a sudden
That's the
change?
sort of thing you need to preventative against. That
But
there
how?
can be no religious influence.
Yeah, but that's a lovely concept.
How do you
That's
enforce
not,
that?
That's
Well,
not how human beings work.
AI judges, JudgeBot 2000.
Oh, please.
Well, no, but I mean, you do bring up a good point, and it's something that I was thinking of while Skep was talking as well. Like, his idea of the system is good, but it's not addressing the need for some kind of oversight to that system to ensure that the system runs as intended. I mean, yes.
No, that's the problem. That's functional.
What?
What I'm saying is, that has to be the level at which that oversight has. You have to have people who are committed to this. They have to be like the officer corps is in the Navy. The officers are different from the enlisted men. Enlisted men take an oath when they swear into the Navy that they will obey the lawful commands. Officers take a different oath. We say we are going to preserve and protect the Constitution. That's protect, defend the Constitution, and preserve and protect. But that's a different moral basis. Okay, one is saying an authority is going to give you orders and you must obey them. The other one says there is an authority that you must interpret, and we are going to trust you. This is a position of trust. This is not an employment contract. This is a position of trust. It's very different, and it what I'm talking about is an analog to the officer and enlisted dichotomy that at least used to exist in the service. That's starting to disappear, by the way, interestingly enough.
But once again, even in the military, even some officers have betrayed. They have not stayed the good people based on those oaths they've taken. Are they a small number? Yes.
You're kidding.
Not too often.
But at the
does
same
happen.
time, but that's the issue, though, is that you can sit there and say, oh, no oversight. But then what happens when the system does become corrupt because humans are involved in it?
That's why you have
Because
a
they
panel
will.
of judges
I
rather
would-
than one.
Well,
Where I was going was, like, if you think about the difference between a municipal police department, which the head of the police department is unelected. They are, for all intents and
Chosen,
purposes, a bureaucrat with a badge, top cop. What do you call them? The sheriff's office.
Sheriffs.
Offices.
Yeah,
No,
they're-
but like the region. They're,
Okay, you
Anyway.
went muffled to me, honey. I have no idea what you said.
I'm pulling a Biden. I can't think of the word, but the sheriff's office.
The sheriff's
they
department?
are elected and they are beholden to the people. That was my point. Is that there should be some baseline level that, if on the off chance, hey, we the people kind of feel like this legal authority here is showing a pattern of maybe. What we would consider weird patterns of behavior as far as his judicial duties, then there would be some kind of separate committee or a motion of well, you couldn't because they're just people, but some kind of vote of
no confidence
no confidence. Thank you. I don't know why. Like
Or a recall.
the last 2 minutes, my brain just
Which the thing is, if there's a system to do that, I'm all for it. Like,
that's what I was saying. Like everything needs to have some kind of check and balance.
Yeah, and it's like, how do they get put in that position? Is it through community vote? Because God knows we've seen how well communities vote. Is it done by a politician? Well, once again, if it's done by a politician, then what happens when that changes and that kind of stuff?
You could have an institution, but again, the institution itself that trains these people, like he was talking about with the officer corps, that's an institution within an institution within an institution, and thus there are higher ups that can go and be like, why are you teaching these officers something that's completely antithetical to the truth? And they could address that issue, just complete hypothetical, and it probably doesn't happen for good reason, but on the off chance there is that avenue, I would hope, to be able to intervene and be like, okay, this person is not fulfilling their oath.
Yeah, and which I'm all for. It's just it's
doesn't have to be government.
Yeah, well, no, it's just I like, and this is not meant to, and I know Skep doesn't see it as attack, but this is in case anybody thinks I'm attacking Skep. I'm not attacking Skep. It's just I'm always curious about how the stuff, and I always do I'm a silver lining person, but I also do the devil's advocate shit, and I'm sorry. So I always
you realize
and Skep's smart enough to answer my questions. So it's one of those things between Skep and Harry and Functional and Sora, someone's gonna answer my question when I don't know what the fuck's going on.
It takes a village to answer Serenity's questions.
Yes, it does, because I will just devil's advocate my own.
All that anime she watches rots the brain.
Goddamn anime.
I don't watch anime. Anime's dumb.
But it's one of those things where it's just kind of I'm always curious people's ideas of how to fix things, and I like the idea of it. I wish I was trusting of people as Skep is, because I'm not.
I mean, it's not really my idea. The idea comes from a guy named Robert A. Heinlein. He wrote it into his universe, very famous science fiction author. And he used science fiction to get across a very libertarian philosophy, which I am pretty.
Oh, he was Stranger in the Strange Lands. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the reason why that name sounded.
Stranger in Strange
Starship
Lands.
Troopers.
Yeah, Time Enough for Love, Moon's Harsh Mistress, all good stuff.
Okay.
Pretty good stuff.
Glory Road. Anyway, his deal, what he called them fair witnesses, and they just went among the people, and when anybody needed a fair witness, whenever there was a dispute, they'd go get a fair witness, and the two people would put their each one put their side to the fair witness. Fair witness would make a decision, and that was it. Everybody shook hands and walked away. I love that idea. I would love to work toward, and I realize that people are people. It's gonna work. It's gonna be shit at first, but iterative development of a process like that with a goal like that in mind, I think will serve us better in the long term than our broken, horrifying nightmare system that exists right now.
Well, you've got tribunes in ancient Rome, and they sort of function sort of like that. But ideally, Judge Dredd. It's like you see somebody. It's like stealing copper wire down by the airport. With the landing lights and stuff, and I pity the fool that steals my copper. And then
I agree with you a lot on that, Skep. I just feel that the current systems in place are completely antithetical to that.
So Functional.
The sub-bureaucracies beneath the surface of these laws and stuff that we need to really just overhaul and start.
Yeah, that actually is just a real problem.
It's a huge problem.
That thing I say all the time, Functional, the perfect is the enemy of the good. I would be happy to just start with getting the Soros DAs out. And then as a more long-term thing we can get with that, because in the near term people are getting away with shit that they should definitely not be getting away with. And
I mean, that's why I my stance on something like immigration is okay. For the last 10 years, they're reviewing first a complete and utter halt moratorium. We need to get shit under control, and I want the last 10 years of approved claims to be reviewed.
Yeah. I love this. So let's do. I've got.
At least he's not putting a Hawk Tua fucking meme.
We're not
God,
doing
I
that.
hate that meme. I hate that freaking
He ain't gonna
meme.
Hawk Tua. I ain't gonna talk to her.
Yeah.
Blech.
Yeah, keep telling. Like I always tell guys, as you get older, you got a choice. You want to become cool or you want to become creepy, and it's like that's why we're not going to talk about that. But instead, we could talk about this. This is the thing I was actually listening to before the show, where you were hearing some weird audio.
Coming through the port of the guards, trying for
Oh,
the hit.
yes.
Oh,
I
yeah.
remember that one.
Find some cover. Make it tough for Canada
For
to
Canada
blank
Day.
the end. Rolls all the way across and perfectly in.
What a good
behind
little
the corner guard coming
compactor.
through the port.
But he just manages to stop.
Blue Collar Olympics. I thought that was pretty good.
Beautiful.
I have an admission.
Yeah,
I've done stuff like that on the job site.
yeah.
Boy, yeah.
As well,
I would do that kind of shit on the
As well
frickin'
you should.
work site if I had the ability. Yeah. The amount
Well,
of
when
people
you're
I would thwack at a distance with those
Dude.
retractable like tape measures, dude. Like,
Before
Yeah.
satellite internet and smartphones and everything, when you're in the middle, like middle Canada or northern Canada, the only thing you have to do to entertain, the only thing around you have to entertain yourself with is the tools from the job that you just spent the last 10 hours slaving doing. So you find some creative ways to do shit like this, and yeah. But of course, safety first. You want to do things
Yeah.
that are safe. You don't want to have like air quotes paintball matches with nail guns because somebody's gonna get hurt, and then you're gonna have to jump in the car and drive 2.5 hours to the nearest goddamn hospital because Johnny decided to shoot some other motherfucker in the foot with a fucking nail gun.
yeah.
That
So-
happened too.
Remember,
I was about to say-
I showed you guys the Sanford and Son deep fakes with
Yes,
with
with
Trump
Trump
and stuff. So here's one that they made of just AOC. So this is a fake. This is fake news, but it's a good fake.
Satire.
I think the problem right now is that people just don't know how smart I really am. They obviously don't know that I am currently working on important legislation to ban AM radios. I mean, it's 2024. Don't you think radios should be able to be used at nighttime too, not just during the morning?
All right. Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, thank you so much.
Thank you. That was great.
oh god.
I'm so easily amused.
No, that's good. I like that
Nothing
one.
wrong with that.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with
Yeah,
that.
and here's something: a giant mysterious fish rattles servers at busy Santa Cruz beach.
Oh. Oh.
Yeah, I wonder what it is. What could it be?
Sunfish!
What could it be? It's a sunfish, asshole sunfish. I hope Otter 841 kicks that thing's ass. That's all, you know. Just
It doesn't have any meat on it for it to be.
well, neither
What
does a
if he-
surfboard.
What if the otter
should
thinks
choose
it's
on those.
surfboard,
Yeah.
jumps on it, realizes, holy shit, this thing is really
Yeah.
buoyant, and like decides to start riding the stupid sunfish around?
I, for one,
and
am
then-
not happy about the fact that there are sunfish in my area. This pisses me off.
No, this is what you get. They've heard all the nasty things you've said about them. And
Big
they're coming
Yeah.
to get you.
Bony
Yeah.
sea nigels. Screw these things.
They eat jellyfish though.
They're
They're
coming
still
for you.
good. Yeah, they're gonna get you, Harry.
Okay.
They're gonna do that creepy
Jellyfish are
flop
not
on-
a big problem in Monterey Harbor.
I
No.
know, I know.
Yeah.
But they're gonna flop on the beach and then use their pathetic little little fins to just go tick, 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 and just come at you,
You
Harry.
jump
That's all
out of the
it's
water
Well-
with a hockey mask and a butcher knife.
Yeah. So here's a thing in Germany, which you guys might appreciate. Germany's first burial church for pet animals.
The loss of a loved one.
That's sweet.
It is, but at the same time, it's like
Immer da,
we're
immer präsent.
personifying slash
It's Gabi.
too many of our animals.
Yeah, I mean, these all seem like really nice people, and
Yeah.
this is fine. You know, this is a church, but they've sort of decided, hey, our new business model is just like catering to people who are sad that their animals died. Now, I love animals and stuff, but I don't feel like a church needs to go into
Unless it's nice.
the animal memorial service business.
Why? There's a market.
Look,
As
Gizmo.
I painfully found out. And the option that I wanted of, because I live in basically an apartment, there's nowhere for me to have buried her, so I was pigeonholed to very few options. But I would have liked the idea of having something like that.
Am I going to regret loading this picture, Sora?
Uh-oh.
No.
Okay.
No.
This is for
Well,
now,
that's
not later,
how
right?
it
Okay.
It's Sora.
You deserve that, Harry.
No, it's fine.
Yeah, I'm
It's sunfish.
Sora, where do I buy that? And I'm sending Harry like a case of them.
No.
Yes. I know where you live. I'm sending you a dozen of these mugs.
I'm just going to throw them at sunfish.
You gotta also buy the hats, the T-shirts, the bumper stickers,
cloth.
and just somehow go where he lives, and then just cover the back end of his car and his motorcycle. In there.
Okay, well, I think
You can get it in a 15-ounce mug size.
So we do need to quickly laugh at this because it's the thing that's on the thumbnail, and I always feel like I have to at least talk about the things that are on the thumbnail. 384 square foot Cupertino home sells for $2 million. Jesus Christ.
384 square feet?
380 square feet, 1 bedroom, 1 bath.
Why?
Wow.
Who would buy that unless you're like?
Is it rezoned in that area? Because they put like a
No,
It's a
well,
freestanding apartment. It's freestanding apartment.
It's basically a little tiny place, but it's sort of like at the end of a street, and it has land on it. And they're going to just tear this down and build
I was gonna
shit.
say, how much land does it have?
Not a ton.
Is it at least like a half acre?
It's a 7,841 square foot lot.
It's not even a half acre. Like, right? Yeah. it's not
Dude, you're talking about Cupertino, and let's pretend that there is no exchange rate right now. That's about how much two mil, something like that, would go for in my city right now.
Well, 7,841 square feet is such a small amount that it's not even worth talking about what fraction of an acre it is. And $2 million is a lot of money just to buy land with no house on it.
That's a tool shed out here.
That's nothing.
anywhere.
Well, it is Cupertino School District's very, very good. It's the home of Apple Computer. Like I think I told you, a friend of mine, his parents, about 6 years ago, moved out of their duplex in Cupertino. Not a big thing, 2 bedrooms, 2 baths, duplex. Just their side of it. And they got $1.75 million for that in Cupertino.
Half a duplex?
Yeah.
Half a duplex?
Half a
They sold
duplex.
For $1 million?
Yeah. Insane.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think in a lot of ways, if you
probably $1 million condos in that town.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I know.
And I can think of the one that I didn't buy for $175,000 because I said, I'm busy starting businesses and stuff. I'll have all the money in the world later. I don't need to be encumbered with mortgages and things like that. It'll be fine. Don't buy that condo for $175,000 in Monte Vista. God damn it. I'm so stupid.
We've all done that kind of shit, Harry. Like, it's like, son of a bitch.
Yeah.
Why didn't I get that Apple stock when I had a chance?
Oh, I did buy Apple stock though.
I'm sure you did. I have no doubt you did. But you know what I mean.
I mean that's
I bought it, then I sold it, then I bought it back, then I sold it, then I bought it back.
Kind of a big problem right now, Serenity, is that not buying property when we could have, but decided to wait a little bit because there were,
Okay.
This time I'll let you kick the football.
Because all of my extended family has their own stuff. I always knew where I live was coming to me, so I just never bothered. So, like, it's one of those things where it's like, I was very lucky thanks to the preparedness of my grandfather. Thank you, grandfather.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where it's kind of like, I do have friends who are going through the hell of trying to find even a place to live here in West Virginia.
Exactly.
So
the notion of owning something is even more out of reach when you can barely find stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this also kind of proves that yes, there are people leaving California, but there are just as many people going to California. Not as many, but there's enough to offset it.
Well, there's also population growth.
California real estate hasn't collapsed today.
Oh yeah, no, yeah,
It
no.
probably never will until John Carpenter takes over.
It'll take a lot, but it's one of those things where it's kind of like there's a lot of, I don't want to use the word propaganda because it's not right, but there's a lot of misconceptions on the internet about, depending on whose side you listen to, which is the reason why you listen to both sides, because then you take the middle and then you go, hey, both of you are wrong. But it's one of those, you kind of sit there and go, well, yeah, there's people leaving California, and yeah, there may be a good portion of them, but there's still just as many people going to California. At least enough.
There's not enough of a population drop to make a significant.
Yeah, it's the reason why they keep doing what they're doing, because there's not a population drop. But at the same time, it's one of those things where it's kind of like, it's just like, yeah.
Let's check back on this topic because I'm not sure it's going to stay this way, but we do need to wrap this up. And so Canada Day is on Monday. So everybody in advance, happy Canada Day. 4th of July is next Thursday. That will be awesome. At some point, I'll actually remember to send Skep a picture of that Peter Max print that I actually have. And
I would like to see that.
when we were talking about the whole crime thing, I was reminded of the Trailer Park Boys because, you know, why not think about the Trailer Park Boys?
Get drunk and enjoy our life instead of going back to jail. So all we got to do is a bunch of little tiny crimes, and we got no worries. Like, life is perfect. Life is going to be really good this year, and we're going to make just as much money. We just, for fuck's sake.
So anyway, this has been your Minions of the Zoo for
Do tiny crimes.
for Saturday. Thank you, panel. Thank you, chat. The zoo is closed. Good night, everybody.
Good night.